Welcome to the Affirm Wellness Podcast, where we will explore the many facets of wellness. In each session, we'll dive into inspiring stories, give expert tips, and practical advice to help you live a healthier, more fulfilling life. This episode explores what it means to heal without receiving an apology, explanation, or resolution that you expected. We unpack the emotional weight of unresolved experiences and challenge the idea that closure must come from others. Instead, we shift toward internal closure, learning how to validate your own experience, release what you cannot control, and move forward with intention and peace.
How you feeling today, Deshauna?
I'm feeling happy today. Feeling happy and energetic. I'm feeling really rested because I got some sleep and
Like your sleep.
sleep. Hmm?
I say you like your sleep.
Absolutely. That's extremely important. So just ready to go, ready to rock and roll, excited about all our projects that we keep talking about, our book club and doing some things with our nonprofit organization, doing some revamping with, our business practices. I'm just really excited about what the year is going to bring for us.
I'm excited as well.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
I would say excited as well. We are doing a lot of business minded activities. The LEI cohort, the Lincoln Power. We're doing live networking events, Star Effect Studio partnerships, and a lot of just beautiful things that we've always wanted to do when it comes to build a community
Sure.
and having like minded people, caring people, loving people. Work with, and it's just refreshing. So I feel
Absolutely.
excited and refreshed at the same time.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, I'm just excited about the journey, and I just want to continue to grow and continue to have healthy relationships. And so that's why this topic is very important that we discuss, because sometimes when we go through things, we don't want to form healthy relationships. We don't want to connect with people anymore because we're hurt.
Yes.
And so healing without closure is something that I think is very important, to learn, a skill to learn. And I think I learned that a long time ago, because sometimes we're expecting people to show up in a way where they give us closure, and sometimes that's not possible. And so I just want to check in with you and ask you: is there a situation in your life that you feel that that you're still waiting for closure?
No, not necessarily. Not anything I can think of in my opinion. And this is not something that's happened overnight.
Mm.
It's been a process of maturing and experiencing different circumstances in life. My motto is if closure happens, it happens. In terms of me being able to speak to another person about it to get that kind of closure,
Mhm.
I've kind of redefined what closure looks like for me. And a lot of times it's that internal process. It
Definitely.
may not have anything to do with me even contacting or speaking with the other person. They may not even know that I've gotten the closure that I need, and that's okay too. But that's happened over time. That wasn't always the case. What about you?
I would say no as well. I think, like you said, maturity, growth, learning that I can't control or change anybody, that I can only control and change myself, has
Yes.
helped with that.
Yes.
And just recognizing that, sometimes, you are where you are mentally, emotionally, physically, all of the above, and other people in their own spaces and going through their own situations and stuff. So looking for them to give me closure or create closure for me, I might be waiting forever, or um, it's just going to keep me stuck, and I don't have time for that. And so I think we all have our own human experiences going on, and so when it comes to closure, I think that's a big thing that a lot of people, have difficulty with, because you're looking for the other person to say, "I'm sorry," and this is what I did wrong and things like that. But the reality is, I don't think sometimes that's not even enough for some people.
Yeah.
Like if I were to come to somebody and say, "This is what I did wrong, and this is how I take accountability," and things like that. If you're still harboring, pain and hurt and
Mhm.
different things inside of you, not because of what I've done, but maybe because of past trauma, and it's just kind of building up, then no matter what I say, it still might not give you that
Yeah.
closure. And so I think it's important to individually figure out how to create your own closure within yourself. And so that's something that I practice. I've been practicing for a while. And so I would say, no, I don't have any situations that I can think of. But I can think of, times where I've had to, create closure for myself. But as far as do I need closure? Do I have a situation where I'm looking for closure from somebody else? No.
Circumstances, I've said before that there have been circumstances where I have been able to get closure,
Mhm.
and the route taken was sitting down with another person and talking through the issue.
Yes.
And I get a lot of gratification from that,
Mhm.
being able, especially for people who are going to continue to be in my life. It is important that we sit down and talk about things when we're ready, because sometimes those conversations can be counterproductive. But when they are productive, I just felt really good. Like, oh my gosh, there's so much growth in someone sitting down and having a productive conversation about what's happened and what we need to do moving forward. So,
Keyword productive.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people
For
have
sure.
conversations that just goes in circles and circles
Yeah.
and circles and nothing gets resolved. And,
Yeah.
and nobody has time for that.
No, we don't. Emotions are a lot of times we don't want to have those conversations because emotions get really high and a lot of people don't like to experience those emotions. Like the anger that kind of comes along with talking through issues. Sometimes when you're in that middle midpoint where you are kind of waiting for the closure,
Mhm.
the anger, the disappointment, the sadness, the confusion that comes along with that. We don't like to deal with those emotions because they're so uncomfortable.
Yes.
But it is important to understand that kind of comes along with it, right? And there's nothing that we can do to kind of rush those feelings along. You can't rush somebody else to sit down and have a conversation with you. You also can't rush yourself through the process of getting the closure that you need. You have to work through those feelings, and we'll kind of talk a little bit later about what working through those feelings,
Look like.
what that looks like. Yeah.
And when you were talking just now, I was thinking about supporting the client, the other day, when it comes to closure, going through a divorce and things like that. And one of the things I highlighted to her is that, sometimes closure, um, it looks like going through the process of grief.
Yeah.
And all the stages of grief was anger,
Mhm.
bargaining,
Yeah.
and
Resentment,
depression,
depression.
and
Mhm.
eventually you get to a place of acceptance. And there's a new stage of grief called finding meaning. And
Mhm.
now she's in that stage now, but we were kind of laughing about how she was in a state of anger and depression and things like that, and she wasn't able to sleep. And
Mhm.
so when I checked in with her recently, she was like, she's been sleeping like a baby and
Yeah.
knock on wood kind of thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, you were going through grief, and sometimes because we're grieving, it's hard to get that closure
Yeah.
because even if the person were to apologize and things like that, which makes it even, which makes it better, but even if they were, it still was, those things will still be triggering for you because of all the experiences that you went through. Because it's kind of like you're grieving what could have been, you're grieving the past, you're grieving all the things that you expected from the
Yeah.
person.
Yes.
And so that makes it difficult to kind of get closure from another person and from yourself. And so we had really been doing that work for her to get closure for herself, but, because especially because she's not gonna get it from the other person.
Mhm. Mhm.
She's gonna get deflection and, talking around in circles and things like that, and I'm like, "If you're waiting for that, you're gonna be disappointed, so let's figure out how to find your own closure." And I think the first step was, figuring out that, there's some grief when it comes to, being hurt by
Yeah.
others and being disappointed by others.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned acceptance, and acceptance is key, for yourself so that you can be able to navigate your own feelings, your own emotions. You may be left on a cliffhanger for a while because you may not get the answers and things like that that you're looking for. And that does look a lot like grief. And so kind of looking at that, accepting whatever circumstances, and I don't jump ahead too much, but accepting whatever circumstances have occurred and understanding what it is that you need to do in the moment, in the time, to work through whatever circumstances those are, whatever feelings that they're provoking for you. Because at some point, you'll be able to get the closure that you need, but it may not be today. So that acceptance is key because a lot of times we want things to happen overnight. We want to feel better overnight, but that may not happen, and
Mhm.
that's okay.
Yeah. What would you say closure means to you, Deshauna? How would you define closure, and where would you say your beliefs about closure came from?
Yeah, so closure for me definitely means moving on and moving forward for me from the circumstances that keep me stuck. And that doesn't mean forgetting, but that just means not allowing those circumstances to rent so much space in my head because that's going to just keep me dwelling on it, not moving on. Also maybe even avoiding certain situations that remind me of what's happened. And so even dwelling about what coulda, woulda, shoulda been. And so having closure for me just means choosing to move on from it. And then that also means for me in my world, again, may not even be able to have a conversation with the other person about it at that time. It may never happen. It may take a while to happen. That also means for me exploring my feelings and my thoughts and the circumstances, writing it down, journaling it, but that's going beneath the surface because above the surface, I'm hurt, I'm angry, I'm confused. And so that may look like I'm quiet, I'm isolating from the circumstances or the person for a while, but beneath the surface, I need to explore what's going on.
Mhm.
What do I need to accept? How do I move forward? What do I want? Do I want to forgive? Do I want to still have a relationship with the person? It may even be an environment. Like I know so many work circumstances where situations have occurred. And I had to ask myself, is this still an environment that I still want to be in? And when I say yes, I still want to stay there. I have to accept what it is that I need to do to remain in that space because I've made the decision to stay in it.
Mhm.
Relationships, guess what? I've made the decision to stay in certain situations.
Mhm.
So I have to accept that and identify for myself, define for myself what it looks like to move forward in the circumstances that I've decided to
That's
stay
a good
there,
point.
right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so getting closure for me means moving on and not letting it rent so much space in my mind, but not necessarily forgetting about it.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point is that if you decide to stay in a situation that's not necessarily the best situation,
Mhm,
maybe because you're gaining in other ways,
mhm,
really accepting that, hey, this is what it is, and figuring out how to navigate it in
mhm,
a way that's healthy for you.
mhm,
That's a good point. I like
mhm.
that. For me, I would say closure means letting go of things I cannot change or control. One of the big things that I would say for me, growing up is, having my own experiences with, relationships, trauma, different things like that. I realized that I can't control anybody else but myself, and so I've been able to identify, that myself, I have my own thoughts, my own perspectives, and so do other people. And especially if it's somebody that grew up differently than you
Yeah.
did, or has different values than you do, trying to make them see things from your perspective is not going to work. And so for me, it's just like, okay, this is how I view the world. This is how I view relationships. But that other person might not value or view relationships the way that I do. And so being able to let go of the things I cannot change or control when it comes to that has been helpful. Do I feel disappointed? Do I feel anger? Do I feel resentment? Do I feel those feelings? Yes. But I'm able to kind of like work through those feelings and navigate it. And it might take some time. But like you said earlier, I give myself that time. Like I'm patient with myself. I'm kind to myself. And I allow myself to grieve whatever that relationship was or could have been,
Mhm.
because it is disappointing when you have relationships that you're nurturing and that you're wanting to grow, but the other person might not be in that same mind space. But I stopped taking accountability. I mean, taking responsibility for their bad behavior, and also giving them the space to grow and figure themselves out on their own time, while I'm loving them from a distance, because
Yeah.
I don't have to be a part of their life in the way that I once was before, but I can still love them and want the best for them, pray for them and things like that. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say letting go looks like for me. And then also setting healthy boundaries, who has access to me, who doesn't have access to me. Because I'm a very giving and loving person.
Mhm.
And so if I'm giving and loving and it's not reciprocated, or if I'm calling you and talking to you and you automatically go to talking about yourself, and it's not reciprocal. Like if I'm talking to you, the only thing that you talk about is yourself. You never ask me how I'm doing, what's going on with you and things like that. That's, to me, that's just common
Yeah.
courtesy.
Yeah.
Of course there are conversations where I'm like, just trying to got some tea for you, or there's some things that's going on with me that I need to share, and for a fact in your mind that this is time for baby to share.
Mhm.
I'm still gonna ask you how you doing, how you're feeling today, because that's just part of my nature. But I've had relationships like that where I had to just kinda let go of, expectations from them, and so that's what I would say. And I think a part of it is growing up. I always bring up my sister, yeah,
Mhm.
because I have a healthy relationship with my sister. My standards are pretty high when it comes to friendships and things like that, and we have disagreements, and we have have you ever fought? We've never physically fought. We've had drama, um, but we've learned how to navigate that stuff, and I think that's a good practice for me on letting go, because we're able to. For my sister, I'm able to let go really easily. Actually, that's part of my personality too. It's hard for me to hold grudges and stuff, but I do have really strict boundaries though. I don't hold a grudge. I'm not gonna hate you, but I do have strict boundaries. You no longer have access to me, because I'm really open with people having access to me. Not right now as I get older, but I usually give people access to me, and because I like to help people and support people. But once you cross that line, or once you disrespect me in a certain way that's not healthy, then you no longer have that access to me. So that's one of the ways that I deal with getting closure, just letting go of things I can't change or control, and setting healthy boundaries.
Yeah, I've learned definitely to evaluate the circumstances and take control of the outcomes that I want.
Mhm.
And so what that means for me is choosing what I want to do. What do I want to do about the circumstance? What has happened? Is it a person, place, or thing? So sometimes it's involving a person, sometimes it's involving a place. Like I talk about different work environments, different contracts that I've gotten and things like that.
Mhm.
Or is it a thing or circumstance?
Mm.
So we had a conversation recently on our podcast about environmental
Yes.
things, right? And I talked about how I got my office redone and things like that, because the things in the office was not serving me well. The environment was not serving me well. And so I really had to accept the fact that some things needed to change. So I needed to budget and position myself to change. Some work circumstances and contractual obligations that I've had in the past, I've had to accept that it was in my power to change my circumstances, that I couldn't necessarily change the environment. I can advocate, but I can't force a company or force them to change their policies and things like that for me.
Mhm.
So I had to remove myself from some of those circumstances and people.
Yeah, I've been part of that.
There you go. Weighing the pros and cons, repositioning relationships,
Mhm.
so that it's beneficial to me,
Yeah.
because people are going to do the same thing. They're going to reposition circumstances and situations and people to be suitable for them. So I have to take control of that and make sure that I'm doing that for myself. But the main thing that I always like to stress with my clients is making sure that you understand that the ball is in your court. So I'm not going to blame Boo Baby. I'm not going to blame anybody for making me feel a certain way,
Mhm.
or not sitting down and having certain conversations and things like that for me, because that's her right.
Mhm.
It's in your personal bill of rights to not want to sit down, have
Have a
conversations with
conversation,
me,
yeah.
right? It's that jobs or companies right um to continue to have policies that are going to be suitable for their business. So it's up to me to decide that that's no longer suitable for me, and I get to choose to move on how I want to move on.
Yes. Because if they want to let you go, they're gonna let you go without
Absolutely.
even blinking an eye.
Absolutely. So we have to do the same. We have to stop blaming people for not getting the closure, not getting the outcomes that we want. We have to take more control over those outcomes.
Yeah.
So, when we don't get the closure that we need, or we're sitting around waiting on closure from different people, places, and things and circumstances, how does that really impact our ability to move forward?
I mean, for me, I think you just kind of remain stuck.
Yeah.
When I talked about boundaries earlier, if I don't have healthy boundaries when it comes to these certain relationships, my cognitive distortions, my unhealthy thoughts will keep me stuck. Oh, this person should have done this way. This person should have done that way. And that ruminating thought, or just replaying those thoughts over and over again in my mind of how somebody should have done something different.
Yeah.
When, like you said, I'm responsible for doing something different.
Yes.
So if I'm waiting for somebody to do something different, I'm gonna be stuck forever, because they might not be ready to move. Their values might be different, because our values might not align. So their values might be stay in a job that's abusive to you. My value is like I gotta move on. I gotta keep moving, and do what's healthiest for me. And so that's one of the things I would say. And then it just kind of like you said, putting your goals, your future in somebody else's hands, it just keeps you stuck.
Yes.
I refuse to stay stuck because other people aren't doing what they're supposed to
Yeah.
do. Because like you said earlier, it's not on them to make those changes. It'd be ideal.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be great if you have conflict with somebody, or you have issues with somebody, where there's, like you said, pick people, place, or thing, and they adjust
Yeah.
to what you like.
Oh, that's
That'd be
great.
that'd be a beautiful
That's
life.
picture perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's a utopia. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, life doesn't happen that
Yeah.
way. And so I have to create that closure for myself in that type of way by identifying what I have control over, what I can change, and putting that into action. And so, that's what I would say. What would you say?
Staying stuck, I mean, helps us not do the internal work. It allows us to stay stuck. And, sometimes it takes the attention away from the work that we need to be doing to change. And that's not good for us.
Yes.
It's really not good for us because we really need to be working through the emotions, working through the circumstances, having an internal dialogue with ourselves about how we were hurt, how we were impacted by the circumstances, and then asking ourselves, what do we need to do to move forward? Because guess what? At the end of the day, we still have to go to work. We still have friendships and relationships that have to carry on. We have to, focus and maintain our mental health, emotional health. We just have a lot of things that are depending on us to be healthy versions of ourselves. So if we're staying stuck in certain circumstances, like I said, people, places, and things, then it's allowing us to focus so much on that and not so much on the work that we need to be doing to move forward. So that's one thing. Another thing is that emotional discomfort and stagnation. It just keeps us stagnant and we're not changing. 6 months later, I'm having a conversation with you and you're still stuck on what happened 6 months ago at that job. You're still at the same job. You're still in that same relationship. You're still dealing with certain environmental things that you need to change, and you haven't changed it because the excuse is that I haven't gotten the closure that I need. Oh, I'm waiting on them to have a conversation. Oh, I'm waiting on this job to give me this raise, or give me this thing that I asked them for a long time ago. We have to stop waiting. We have to take matters into our own hands, so that we can get the closure that we need to move on from things. It's just not good for us internally. And that internal stress, then being stuck internally, causes some of those symptoms, those physical symptoms, and can lead to health issues and things like that, that a lot of people don't know where they came from, but it's because of the stress that we carry internally. And the only way to let go of it is really to go through that process of understanding what happened and what we need to do about it, so that we can move forward from it.
Yeah. When you were talking just now, I was thinking about our episode about how to get the best out of therapy and the how piece.
Yes.
Where, in therapy, you can only benefit if you're, what you say, honest.
Yeah.
Was it honest, open,
And willing.
And willing,
Yeah.
yes. And so I would say that last part. Some people are honest, some people are open, but the willing part, they can get stuck in.
Yeah.
Willing to take action, willing to, because sometimes, when people go to therapy, like I said, and they tell me, oh, I went to therapy before, but I don't know, I didn't like it or something like that. I always ask them, were you willing to do the work that it took to get to where you wanted to get to? And a lot of times the answer was no.
Yeah.
Because it's scary, or you're looking for somebody else to do a different action. You waited for that person or that job or that situation to change versus you making those changes.
Yeah.
And you question, like, why can't they change?
Yeah.
Because you don't have control. Like, you're my client. That's why I always tell my clients, I say, you're my client, so I'm here to support you
Yeah.
and help you move forward. And so it made me think about that when you were talking just now.
Yeah. The minute we take circumstances into our own hand, that's when we have the ability to really move forward, and that's where the real change happens. Our mental space tends to open up. We feel freer, and we realize that, you know what, I do have the ability, I do have the power to really control my own outcomes instead of waiting for people, places, and things to do that for you.
Can you repeat that again? I have the what? I have the what?
I have the power. I have the ability
to control.
to really control my outcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want people to highlight that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, in what ways can we begin creating our own sense of closure, taking matters into our own hands?
I think what we said earlier is really defining what closure looks like for you, naming what actually you want to close. I remember a situation where I had to find closure for. I was very honest with myself about why that situation or relationship impacted me, and it was because I felt betrayed and I felt disrespected, and so I had to put words to what I actually felt based on that situation, and labeling it and highlighting what the situation was helped me work through that emotion. It took some time because there was some anger and some, emotions related to that, because this is somebody that I thought I had a good relationship with, and a professional relationship with, and they were abusive to me in the work setting, and it was very hurtful because, like, I've never done that to you, and so why would you do that to me? And so I also recognized that they had their own internal turmoil and stuff that they were going through, that they were projecting, and so I didn't take it on, but it was still hurtful because I thought we were better than that, and so I would say actually naming what you actually want to close, and then accept that you may not get external resolution. And at that moment, I didn't get external resolution until I had removed myself from the situation. And then I got a card with a letter, and I just tore it and threw it in the trash.
Wow.
I tore it up and threw it in the trash. I read it, and I tore it up and threw it in the trash because I knew this person knew better, but they didn't value me, until I left. And then they wanted to be remorseful, but it was too late. Because once I'm done, there's no coming back. I don't hate you, but you no longer have access to me. And so that's another way that I begin to create closure for myself, identifying exactly what it is I want to get closure from, the situation, the person, the place, the thing, whatever. And then what exactly about the situation triggered me or impacted me.
Yes.
And then actually working through those emotions myself, not looking for the other person to fix it for me. And then letting go and creating those boundaries for the future. Because I think it said, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So I believe that really greatly. Like, okay, you've already shown me who you are. I'm going to believe it.
That's right.
I'm not going to keep trying to make excuses to say, oh, but he's a good person, or she's a good person. And they might be, but they're not a good person to me.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And when you're sitting down and processing the stories, not necessarily just about the story and what's happened, is, you really have to explore, dissect, how did it make you feel? What happened as a result of whatever circumstance or situation that happened. And then giving yourself the ability to walk yourself through the process of it. Again, it mirrors the stages of grief. Yes, I'm going to feel shocked or depressed or confused about how this particular situation happened. Then I may feel angry and disappointed, and I don't know which way to go, right? And then a light bulb goes off, and I realize that it's okay to accept what's happened. I don't necessarily have to agree with what happened, but I at least accept it for what it is, because there's nothing I can do to change it. Remember the examples I gave earlier about work circumstances, relationship circumstances, and things like that, environmental changes that we sometimes need to make. I've accepted it for what it is. I don't agree with it, but I've accepted these things for what they are. And I've decided to take matters into my own hands and take the steps that I need to take care of myself so that my outcomes and my circumstances can be better. That's in my control, right? And then finding meaning in it. What are some lessons that I learned from these situations? What are some lessons that I learned? Oh, I learned to set better boundaries. I learned to not, be like Krispy Kreme and the hot and ready sign on, and I'm letting everybody into my life. I'm being the nice people pleaser, right? What did I learn from the circumstance, and how can I take that lesson and make it applicable to life circumstances moving forward? Because I can never say that something may never happen again. I can't say that because history repeats itself, right? But what I can say is that I'm going to use these life lessons. I'm going to find meaning in those circumstances, and I'm going to apply it so that I can decrease the probability of
It happening again.
of it happening again the way that it happened before, how I reacted or responded to it before. So,
And that's a good point, because once you take those lessons, you're able to get trigger warnings faster. And you see a certain relationship going a certain way, or a certain circumstance going a certain way, you're able to pivot quicker than you were in the past. So that's definitely true.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up warnings. As we kind of wrap up this conversation, history does teach you, well, we hope that it teaches you, when you're looking at circumstances that have happened in the past, use it as a catalyst to change as you move forward. My family and I were at the beach here recently, and there were some warning signs, at the beach that said the waves, the tides are too high, caution, caution, caution. We have to utilize those warning signs to make sure that we're not doing the same things over and over again,
expecting a different
and
result.
expecting different results, because that's insanity.
Yes.
So the takeaway for this session is closure is not always something that you get from others. It's something that you give yourself. By acknowledging your experience, honoring what you feel, and deciding to move forward, you can find peace without needing all of the answers.
The challenge for this session is to choose one unresolved situation and spend 5 to 10 minutes journaling about it. Ask yourself, what do I wish I had said? How did it impact me? And when am I ready to release? And state this affirmation out loud. I may not have all the answers, but I am choosing to move forward. Please follow, like, and subscribe. Take care.
Thank you for joining us. Remember, wellness is not a destination, but a process, and every step you take matters. Until next time, stay grounded, stay connected, and keep prioritizing your well-being.